Hello, and welcome to another week of Sparring Partners Podcast. My name's Coby McKinley. On the other side is Brad Jones. And actually, this is the first week that we are on the Film Fight Freaks website. So, Sparring Partners Podcast presented by filmfightfreaks.com. That is the website that I do breakdowns for, and that's the site that now... hopefully you found us there. And if you didn't, hopefully you found us on Instagram. So it's really cool news. We're officially, a part of the site. So super cool.
Moving on up.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that, actually. This past weekend, like I was telling Brad a little bit before the show started, I had to rehydrate. I had to take study the stars for school. But I'm all watered up and ready to talk about the fights from Saturday and some news from this past week. Brad, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm also rehydrated and ready to roll. Everybody's got their waters. We're ready to rock. Post Halloween hangover and the weird, unusual UFC fight card on a major holiday. We don't get that very often, so that was interesting.
It was a common storyline on MMA Instagram. All the fight fans that were stuck at their girls' Halloween parties. Lucky for us, the parties we were at prominently featured fighting. Although I wasn't at a party when I watched the fights. I was at work. But either way, I still got to see them.
Yeah.
And obviously in the headlining spot of this holiday fight night was Anderson Silva and his last bout in the UFC against Uriah Hall. And even though it took place on Halloween, it was way less scary than I think I expected it to be, and I think you expected it to be, right?
Yeah. I thought Anderson did probably the best job of representing himself. Since the Izzy fight, but I feel like those two fights in particular, out of like the past 8. Where there was a sense of he wanted it. He was putting his foot on the gas, actually going for it. Where some of these fights lately, he just hasn't. It seemed like he didn't want it. He's just kind of there. He's just standing around getting beat up. But for a 45-year-old man, he put up a good representation of himself still. Now, granted, he got knocked out by the number 10 guy in the division. So that's a wrap on any UFC, any further UFC dreams. It's time to close the door on that. But I think it's almost certain that he goes to Bellator, or at the very least, he keeps fighting after this. I think that's 95% sure that next year Anderson signs to another MMA organization and continues fighting.
Yeah. That's I think it was. It's a shame. It's a shame that he fought like that in the fight that's supposed to be his last one, because that's his when was his last win? It was a unanimous decision over Brunson, correct?
It was Brunson, yeah, the questionable win over Brunson.
Yeah, and even then he kind of hung back, and his last few fights, it's not like he it's not like it looked like he didn't want to win in those fights. It just looked like it honestly felt like he assumed he would win. Just being there. Just being in the fight. If I don't get knocked out, I'm going to win. And it's just simply not the case. And in this one, as you said, he was aggressive, man. He was aggressive. And even after, even after he got dropped at the end of the round, which round was that? Round 3?
3, yeah.
Yeah, even after getting dropped in round 3, I thought, oh no, he's gonna back way off in this next round.
Mm-hmm.
And no, he was more aggressive. And I'm sitting there watching it at the shop at my job, and I said audibly, I said out loud to myself, I was like, dude, Anderson's going to go out on a shield. That's what he wants. I think that's what he wants. He wants to either knock out or get knocked out, and that's not a side of Anderson Silva we've seen. That was not a regular part of the Anderson Silva experience in the past, but certainly not a part of the Anderson Silva experience of the last 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah. This one felt different. It felt like Anderson was taking it differently. Like Dana was fairly straightforward from the jump after he announced his fight. Like, all right, even though Anderson still has more fights on his UFC contract, like this is it for him. In the UFC after this, we're just not going to let him fight here anymore. And I feel like all that talk leading up to it, Anderson just like got it in his head, like, okay, kind of these last couple fights, kind of like BJ Penn, he wasn't really pulling the trigger, but it felt like he was like, okay, this is my last, the last one. I'm in the main event. Like, I'm going to go for it. Like, I'm not just going to get a listless decision. Like, he went out on a shield, and it didn't work for him. He got knocked out, but I thought that was the best he's looked since, probably better than he looked in the Izzy fight, at the very least, the best he's looked since 6 years, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I'm pulling it up now. Yeah. And it's, like you say, it's the best he's looked in a while, which is ironic to say that about a guy who lost, via TKO.
That's 45. I can't get over.
Yeah, you're right.
45. Like, it's insane that he went out there in a main event at 45 years old and like hung in there just fine with the guy that's ranked in the top 10 of the division. A guy that 10 years ago, that would have been a joke of a matchup, and would have obliterated this guy. But he still hung in there as an old man. It was impressive.
Yeah, man. Take a moment, and do you have the card pulled up by any chance?
No, I can make that happen.
Yeah. Go ahead, and were there any standout performances on the card? And we'll keep it to the main. Well, actually, you know what? I want to actually real quick give a couple honorable mentions from the prelims.
Yeah. Go for it.
Dustin Jacoby looked awesome. He looked great. His first time back in the UFC in 8-9 years. Coming off it, he won on the Contender Series, and he looked awesome. He had a stint in the UFC before. He went winless before he got cut. He fought at middleweight back in 2011, 2012, and dude, he looked phenomenal. He looked so good.
He obliterated that dude.
Yes, and the striking edge was very apparent, because Dustin Jacoby actually spent time in Glory for a while. They said it in the commentary for the fight, but I had watched some of his kickboxing stuff to break down Contender Series, and man, super great. Miles Johns looks super powerful for 135.
Yeah, 135.
Yeah. And then Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland looked awesome. His first fight since 2018. He got in a motorcycle accident, hurt his knee, which sidelined him for a while. But dude, he looked great. His striking looked transformed.
Yeah. Well, this is perfect because the two that I'm going to shout out, you didn't cover those, so it's great. First up, Alexander Hernandez. Now, no secret here. I don't like that guy. Haven't liked him since before the Cowboy fight, right?
Right.
He talks a gang of shit and he couldn't back it up. at this point, I feel like we've seen him get beat up enough that he's paid the price for his flagrant and excessive shit talking. And it's fine. I'm ready to get him back on track. So he went out there, obliterated the guy, looked great. He immediately started running his mouth off again. It's fine. If you're backing it up, that's fine. You can do it. But he looked great. He looked really good. Big win. Really torched Gritzmacher up like for real. He lit that dude up, had him hurt really bad. The other one, I want to shout out Bobby Green, because Bobby Green got absolutely robbed. Bobby Green won the hell out of that fight. I thought Bobby Green won the hell out of that fight, and I was completely shocked when he lost a unanimous decision. I was totally shocked.
I was not. And I'll tell you why. Because he slipped back into old Bobby Green.
He did do that.
Old Bobby Green does not do a lot. He has a lot of volume over the course of the fight, but he takes certain rounds off. And even if you are landing the cleaner strikes, he looked better. I mean, like, as far as between, actually, you know what? No, I won't even say that too, because Moises looked like his striking had leveled up. Clearly, he looked great in the striking compared to his last showing. Now, Bobby Green, his last few fights, he just looked different. He looked like he was doing things consciously to win the rounds and putting on pressure, staying high in the volume, wrestling when he wanted to. And the third round of this fight, it really was a one-round fight heading into the third. And Green hung back a lot. And I mean, obvious, it was tough. It was a super tough fight. I mean, both guys had their moments, and I just think that maybe fighting once a month at 34 years old is not a great idea. I mean, you're not, I mean, it's not, it actually, now I'm thinking about it, is it literally once a month? Has it been?
Essentially, yes. That would have been his.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just don't, it's about finding that right balance. And I'm not sure fighting once a month at 34 is quite the right balance, but definitely it's good staying more active than he had been. I mean, I thought he was retired before he showed up on the first COVID card.
Yeah, he took a lot of big breaks off. There's definitely a tipping point. I feel like we found that out with Cerrone. Cerrone would go on these crazy runs where he'd just be like, oh, line up the next one. And that'll work for a little bit, but like when you get on like a 3 and a 4 run, like you're wore down by the end of it. I give Thiago Moises the credit that he was switching it up better than Bobby was, but in the end, like, he'd spend 2 minutes, working a takedown and not do anything with it. And Bobby Green would just stand back up. And now, granted, Bobby Green was making some not smart decisions later in the fight, but even still, I definitely thought that he had won. Yeah, the rest of the main card was good.
Yeah, let me shout out one more, because actually every single one of the prelim fighters delivered big time.
Yeah, I did.
All the prelims were finishes. Another Contender Series vet, Adrian Yanez, pulled off that awesome head kick.
Yep.
Looked great. And then Jason Witt took out Cole Williams. I'm pretty sure Cole Williams must have been a weight replacement.
Had to be. Missed weight.
He missed weight by 5.5 pounds.
Yeah, he had to be.
So now go ahead, and if you would, we covered the main event a little bit, but what did you think of Kevin Holland? And real quick, let the people know what you thought of Kevin Holland, Bryce Mitchell, Maurice Green, all these, or Greg Hardy rather. Yeah. While I get this cat the hell out of this room.
Yes, do what you got to do for the cat owners out there. All right, so Kevin Holland I was fairly impressed with him. He did what he needed to do. He's fighting a guy that's coming in on short notice replacement. He's manhandling him. Got the brutal finish where he like snapped the guy's neck or broke his collarbone or something. It was pretty brutal, but Kevin Holland looked great. Did what had to be done. I'd like to see him get. Well, he immediately started running his mouth off against Israel, which anyone's going to do if you get a big win in the weight class and the champ's sitting cage side, so that's fine. Give Kevin Holland a ranked guy next, someone ranked the 10 to 15 range. I think it's time to get him into the lower levels of the middleweight rankings. So that's cool with Holland. Get him in there. Greg Hardy, again, the guy, did what he needed to do. Greg Hardy's been training with Rashad Evans the past 2 months, and I think that is going to be great moving forward. I think him working with Rashad is, oh, look at this. You get rid of yours and mine shows up. Yeah. All right. Greg Hardy.
Dude, post-COVID, we'll just have to get a studio or a shared, a worker co-op or a place that doesn't allow cats. That's all I got. Jeez.
We'll have our sponsorship with Manscaped by then, and they'll pay for our new studio.
Yeah. I heard earlier you mentioned Kevin Holland's win against Charlie Ontiveros. It was a neck injury.
Yep.
Although he felt all his extremities just fine. I think it's more than likely it was a stinger. And it's a pain that'll shoot down your neck. What's a fight that happened? It was
Max Holloway and Oliveira.
That, and also Joe Diesel Riggs. I can't remember who he fought, right. But it was in his latest UFC stint. He hurt his neck.
Hey, get off of that. But yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. Well, real quick, one fight that I wanted to talk about, an absolute dog fight, was Bryce Mitchell and Andre Fili.
Yeah.
That was as striker versus grappler as you can get in modern MMA, at the pinnacle of modern MMA. Yeah. Man, super impressed with Bryce Mitchell to gut it out. It was looking borderline horrible for him at certain points in the fight when he could not get Fili down. I believe in the second round, Fili really started to open up, really was able to use his defensive wrestling, and it looked really not good for Bryce Mitchell. And he managed to gut it out. And I don't know, I was thinking about this while I was watching, because some fans out there may feel this way. I have graduated past lay and pray as a complaint. I was watching the fight and realized that, like, in the past, I probably would have not liked the tactic. Because Bryce Mitchell, I mean, let's be honest, the last 2 minutes-ish of the fight, I mean, he just was kind of hanging out in the full guard, or in the guard of Andre Fili. I mean, he wasn't trying to pass necessarily. He was doing some little shots here or there, or he would posture up for a second. But really, it was just all about ground control. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, about the same. Like, we really haven't had to deal with the plague of the lay-in prayers in some years now, since the John Fitch era. I feel like the whole sport generally kind of evolved past that.
Yeah.
Bryce Mitchell continues to impress me. He has a specific skill set of an extreme grappler in a division full of strikers. So
yeah,
Fili was 15 and Mitchell was unranked coming into this, and now Mitchell, undefeated in the UFC, breaks into the rankings. He's still a young dude. He's like 25. I expect him to have some success in the top of the featherweight division against, you look through the top 10, they're all strikers. So he could really pull a Khabib in that featherweight division and, tear some dudes up, I think. Now,
Yeah.
granted, I'm not saying he's gonna run through everybody and be undefeated. I expect him to lose in one of his next couple fights, but as he gets older and evolves, like, yeah, I think he'll be. Dude also cuts a gang of weight. If you watch that interview with him, after the weigh-ins, he was struggling. He was talking about how much weight he cuts. He cuts a lot of weight. So he's just big. He's a powerful dude. Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, but it's like, this is what I expected coming in. I know Andre Fili's ground game, and I know he's good on his feet, but I expected Bryce Mitchell to do what he did, and he delivered.
Yeah, and thinking about it further, I think that probably what it is that I know that is not the entirety, like the last 2 minutes of the fight is not the entirety of Bryce Mitchell's game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he's doing that, is because he couldn't catch you, or he like literally has to keep you down. It's I think maybe it's case by case, but you're right. We haven't had to worry about the plague that was.
There was a point in time where that was a big.
It was
issue.
horrible.
It was a big issue. All these dudes take you down and do nothing, just hold you there.
Yeah, that's what I would love to do a special edition of Sparring Partners.
Top 10 lay-in prey.
No, not like that, but like
boring.
But like, yeah, like dive into what it was. Because was it the fact that, like, I mean, we've each been fans for if we round up between 2 or 3 years, we've been fans for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So at the time of Lay and Pray, you're talking about, I mean, like, we had only been watching for 4 years at that point. So like, there's different parts of the game that as I watch longer, I know what's like. The most recent one is clinch fighting, right? I now know when I'm watching clinch fighting what is roughly going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, whereas back in the day, back when I would watch it when I was a younger fan, I would see them and it would literally look to me like wall and stall, as they call it. But now when I watch people against the cage, and maybe it's my understanding of the sport, or maybe it's the fact that the skill level in the sport has gotten to a point where wall and stall just simply is not a valuable tactic anymore.
Yeah, that's something that's been big. It's the rapid evolution of fighter skills over these past like 10, 15 years, because like, we just look back at like the Chuck Liddells, guys that had just like no skill set at all, but just like stand there and throw crazy hands, and they could get so far. I feel like this group of elite wrestlers came along that was like, we don't have a great ground game, but we're really good wrestlers. We're good at taking guys down, and we recognize that a lot of these other fighters have like terrible takedown defense and bad ground game. And so these wrestlers were like, we can just shoot doubles and take these dudes down, and then we don't have to do anything. We just hold them on the ground for 3 rounds and just walk away with the decision. And then
and I've thought about this too. I was trying to write something about it, but it's just too broad of a talk. It would work better in like a conversation, but like skill sets in MMA, we're like not even 30 years in to like
it started the year we were born, so it's our life.
If like, let's say we want to say modern MMA, just kind of arbitrary, right? Modern MMA with weight classes and rules and rounds has existed for about 10 less than that. So the sport is very much still evolving, and the skill set it's circular. It's circular because, well, not necessarily circular, but you get to an age of, we go through these phases, and at this point it's weight class by weight class. But you go into the age of the specialist, right? You have the age of the specialist. Everyone does something. Then it becomes who is the best at the general skills, and then one guy gets those general skills down, but then it's also in comparison to his peers, he's a specialist. And then all the people catch up, and now it's back to general, and then we get another. It's like the specialists are the ones that raise the skill, the general skill of the division. It's really heavyweight is probably where it's most apparent. You have a guy like JDS, where it's like, he was a boxer, and then all the rest of the heavyweights are like, I thought I had to wrestle because of Brock Lesnar and
get huge.
and
Everyone was like, start lifting weights. We got to get really big. Fight Brock. Like Shane Carwin and like Frank Mir like did this whole routine where he was like, I'm just gonna put on muscle.
Dude,
I'm like, why the muscle on? Why would muscle be muscle?
He's like, all right. I guess I need to become a dark-haired carrot top. So let's get this work done. But yeah, man, the fight night this past Saturday was among the better fight nights that we've seen lately. It had action-packed, fan favorites, real dudes. And the last thing that I want to do is I wanted to take a look at Evan's piece on Film Fight Freaks, Fights to Make After. It'll be linked down below. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be linked down below. And if you're listening on Anchor, it'll be in the description there. So I like these posts that he does. And you think about these things more than I do. So I'm going to run some of these past you, and we'll kind of go off of them, and we'll start from the bottom. So we're gonna go to actually the main three. We're gonna start with Greg Hardy. And so what Evan thinks is Greg Hardy's next bout should be against Walt Harris, which actually I like that idea quite a bit.
I'd be down with that. The only thing with Walt Harris is him being ranked number 11, which isn't a problem at all. I mean, Greg Hardy fought all the way up to Volkov and hung in there and did
he went the distance with Volkov.
Yeah, so I mean that's fine. Walt Harris is cool. I mean any one of these guys in the 10 to 15 at heavyweight, like Marcin Tybura, Blagoy Ivanov, Sergey Pavlovich, any one of those guys. Because it's definitely time to get Greg Hardy back into the heavyweight rankings, but I just don't want to drown him because this whole time he's been working with basically just like raw talent. He's just like, I'm explosive and I can obliterate people. And he just now got with like Rashad and a team that's actually going to train him and like show him some of the things that are missing from his game. So I'd kind of like to, slow build him, but definitely get him ranked, get him fighting somebody in the 10 to 15 area at heavyweight for sure.
Yeah. And you brought that up. He is now with someone who is specifically on him, like Camp Hardy. Their project is Greg Hardy, and I think that's a really good move for him because obviously he's 32, which is super young for a heavyweight. He has time to develop, and he's actually developing pretty well. He still loads up quite a bit.
Yes.
He
has like all the raw potential in the world.
Yeah, he's got things to work on, but so far so good. Next on Evan's list, another one I like quite a bit, Bryce Mitchell versus Ryan Hall.
Ooh, man, that is a really good one. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah.
People keep turning down Ryan Hall, and I have a feeling Bryce Mitchell will not.
That's true. So Bryce Mitchell is now ranked 15th, and Uriah Hall is 13th. So yeah, I'm down with that for sure. It would be great. I do, just for my own personal reasons. I don't know about matching the two grapplers in the division against each other. I get it 'cause it'd be great, but I feel like you could keep them separate for a little while and run them up through the ladder, and that could be like a really big fight later on, like the two
Yeah.
best grapplers, jiu-jitsu players in the featherweight division. But I'm totally on board for that. It'd be a great fight. If not that, then like I mean, good Lord, Edson Barboza is ranked 14th at featherweight, which is like crazy. That's insane to me. But like a Barboza fight, Dan Ige, Shane Burgos, any one of these guys, he's kind of in the same situation as Hardy. Like he's ranked 15 now, so someone in the 10 to 14 range. You know, we don't need to drown him in top 10, but like just to start walking him up the ranking.
So yeah, actually, you both brought up something really great. So I love the idea of Ryan Hall, but that fight against you literally just said his name, Barboza. Yeah, the fight against Barboza would be awesome, and it would be a name. Not that Andre Fili is not because at this point Andre Fili is established. He's a UFC vet. He's a UFC name. Got the rub off of Uriah and the gang, but Barboza would be a serious name, and also for Barboza, it would be good to kind of turn back a young fella and prove that he's not going anywhere. So I like that fight, and I like the Hall fight because I think Ryan Hall, he brings it up in the he brings it up in the article, right? Ryan Hall has been begging for literally anyone. Please, just someone agree to fight me. And obviously, for obvious reasons, people are not eager to line up to fight Ryan Hall because chances are he's not going to fight you. He's going to dive after your ankle and, BJ pin you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be unceremonious, and he's going to rip your knee in half. And then the last one on the list, and then we'll move on to some news from the past week. And I like this one too from Evan: Uriah Hall versus Kelvin Gastelum 2.
Interesting. Mine was Uriah Hall versus Yoel Romero, because that was our fight that we had before that was previously booked. Yoel's in a bit of a tough spot right now, but even still, Yoel is ranked incredibly high in the division. Yoel is still ranked number 5. So he's ranked number 5. Yeah, I mean, Uriah Hall was 10 before he fought Anderson. So yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool with me. But that is also the Gastelum fight. Also is great. Same situation. Gastelum's in a bit of a rough spot right now. He really needs to get a win. Yeah. Either one of those would be great. Hall is just on he's on a roll right now. It's like 3 or 4 wins in a row after the Anderson fight. And a lot of these guys at middleweight are struggling right now, like coming off multiple losses, like Yoel and Gastelum, and some of these guys have been getting murked on lately. And then also you got what's his name, Paulo Costa out here just running around begging someone to fight him. So it's like, but we've already seen that fight with Uriah Hall. But yeah, Yoel. I'd go with Yoel.
Yeah. Hall did not do himself any favors. I believe post-fight, Dana White called Uriah Hall the most gun-shy fighter in UFC history, which might be accurate. I mean, it's Dana White, so it's it's a bit exaggerated. It's everything is the biggest or worst in UFC history every weekend to the bald boss man. But Uriah Hall might be, but also I don't think that you can discount the fact that Anderson Silva as a hero meant a lot to Uriah Hall, and I genuinely do not think that it's Uriah Hall when he was pounding on Anderson. I have a feeling that the entire time his inner monologue was, please let me stop. Please let me stop.
Yeah, of course. All these guys that have to fight Anderson, it's just rough. You're just beating up this old man. And the only reason I'll disagree with I mean, he still may be the most gun shy, but the only reason I would dispute it is because he's hit and miss. Like Uriah Hall will have hits. He'll have like these crazy fights, like the first Musasi fight, or like some of these fights where like he'll get an insane, crazy knockout. He'll look great. He'll look super turned on and like really, really in it. But then, yeah, there's times, he just doesn't throw anything and he's kind of not there and out of it. Kind of the same situation with Cerrone. Like Cerrone will have times where he'll show up and he's like locked in and he's murking dudes and looking really great. But then other times he's just kind of not there. So yeah, that's another guy where he talked extensively in the post fight interviews about his mindset. He also recently switched camps. He was talking about he's so much of a loner and was doing things kind of on his own before, and he's just now started to like get a team around him and kind of really start putting things together, kind of like Greg Hardy is. So
yeah, he's with Fortis now, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, man. So I think that does it with our coverage of the event. I mean, we planned it. This tells you how good of an event it was, because we both before we started recording, we were like, there's not that many storylines coming out of this, and we've spent, I don't know, half an hour discussing it. It was a great card, and we haven't even discussed, and we'll keep it brief, because I think we both agree on the answer. Will Anderson Silva fight again?
Yes, absolutely, but not for the UFC.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that it is not good. I think it's not good. I think that Anderson Silva could go to Bellator. Well, it's important to think about how his contract is structured, because UFC contracts generally make it so that the UFC gets to do what they want. And if the UFC wants to not let Anderson Silva fight, but also not let him sign anywhere else, I have a feeling his contract does that. But at the same time, crazier things have happened in MMA, and I think that Silva could end up in Bellator, but also you got to remember, ONE FC is active right now, and they are huge. They're massive. They're not huge over here, but in Asia they're massive, and they pay their athletes very well, and their athletes also don't have to cut weight. Not that Silva would love to go fight in Singapore, but he's traveling either way. He's traveling either way. If he fights for Bellator, they don't do events in Brazil, really. Yeah. So I know it's all speculation at this point, but I think that Silva's answer to Bisping post fight was honest, and also kind of sad, because Silva said straight up, like, if I stop fighting, it'll break my heart. Yeah. So like he just wants to ride this thing till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, that last wheel falls off.
And it's not going to take too long. But if he goes to Bellator, he could probably pick up a win over I don't know, Rick Hahn. Is he a middleweight? I don't know.
Speaking of all this, I'd like to sneak
Is Rick Hahn a middleweight? I'm gonna figure it out.
I'd like to sneak an extra topic in here that was not on our discussion, but it'll fit in perfectly as to where we are right now. Let's briefly A lightweight.
Rickon is a lightweight. Apologies.
Almost.
Okay.
Let's briefly review this Mousasi title fight in Bellator that happened on Thursday night.
So we can talk about
connections to all this stuff.
So we had MMA happening around the globe this week. So we had Mousasi fighting Lima. And then we also had some upset wins in one FC. We had some really solid wins. And while you inform the people about your thoughts on Mousasi Lima.
This one's very easy. I will tell you, I did not like the fight in watching it, and I'll tell you why I didn't like the fight. Because before the fight starts, I'm sitting there, I'm watching it with your brother, and I'm like, we're recapping the end of Mousasi's UFC career. And so I pull up his record, and I'm like, oh man, that's right. Mousasi left the UFC on a 5-fight winning streak and a 4-fight TKO or knockout streak. He was on a hot roll, was fed up with the situation at the time of Bisping and GSP being champion, and then left and went to Bellator. He was on a very, very hot roll in the UFC at the time, and still to this day, right? A very, very elite guy, still, relatively young for the amount of crazy miles he has on him. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, and he went to Bellator, he got the belt, beat the piss out of Rory, and then he lost the belt to a dude that's gone already now, and so he gets the belt back. So,
Rafael Lovato Jr.
Yes. So before this fight starts, I'm thinking, okay, as I watch this fight, I'm going to compare the two people fighting in this fight against Israel Adesanya. I'm thinking, man, I wonder if these guys are like, on a level of Israel Adesanya, because they may be. I don't know. So let's see. So the fight happens right out of the gate, first and second round. I'm like, what are both of you doing? Mousasi, there's like no movement. There's no head movement. There's no arm movement. There's no leg movement. He just stands and he just like plots around the cage, and Lima's not doing anything to make him pay for it. Lima also was super unimpressive for whatever reason in that fight. But the whole time I was just like, what is going on? You guys would get blown to bits by like Israel especially, but like I think some of the other guys in the top of the middleweight division, I was just like, I always felt like Mousasi fights up to the level of competition that he's against. He had and I was like, Lima just was not bringing him something that brought a good fight out of him. He was like, I'll just, I don't need to do much here. I can just kind of coast and just get a decision. But after that fight was over, I was like, good God, that was like one of the best things that Bellator had to offer. In terms of like, we have two elite guys in their prime. They're both champions, our welterweight and middleweight champion. This isn't old washed up men. These are like our guys, our best of the best. And it did not deliver for me at all.
Yeah, man, it was disappointing. It was not as explosive as I think anyone expected it to be. And I will offer you this. Do you think Mousasi is bored?
Yes.
He's bored.
Yes.
I got the feeling in that fight that he was just kind of bored. Like, I don't think, okay, the guy has, let's see, 53 fights.
Yeah.
53 fights.
Crazy.
He's 35.
Mm-hmm.
He always, I always forget how young he is compared to like
forever.
Mm-hmm. And he looked, it was a listless performance from Mousasi. And on Diego Lima, he seemed hesitant to engage. I mean, for good reason. He hadn't fought at middleweight. I think they said on the broadcast in around a decade. He used to fight
10 years.
And so I think that he was, I mean, it's not like he wouldn't have prepared with middleweights. I just am not sure what his, like, if he was injured or if he was, it just wasn't your typical Lima performance.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't impressive at all.
that's the thing, is that Lima has been there too. So I don't expect him to be a guy that gets intimidated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something more to I think the Lima side. On Musasi's side, he just seemed like he was like I guess I'll do this. I don't have nothing else to do. And if you interviewed him, that's his demeanor most of the time anyway. It's just like, whatever, I'm gonna do this because this is what I do, and that's it. And it was not the most exciting fight. Lima came alive finally in the fourth round and started landing. But he never let the hands go really at any point. And it's a shame too, because when he would, he was catching Musasi occasionally. But then again, no one on either side, with exception of a few moments, really went out on a limb in that kind of way to be offensive. Musasi showed some good grappling, like usual. People always sleep on his grappling, but it's arguably the strongest part of his game at this point.
Yeah.
And we had mentioned that there was, when we compare him to the UFC, the champion, the middleweight champion and middleweight champion Izzy, middleweight champion Musasi, that's still a fight I would love to see, because as listless as Musasi seemed in that fight, I think he matches up very well with Israel Adesanya, as far as pedigree goes, as far as experience and pedigree, because Musasi is not only a 53 fight MMA veteran, he also has kickboxing experience.
Yeah.
So that's a fight that I would still love to see. It's just a matter of, like, it'll probably never happen because Musasi, I don't think the UFC management, at least, liked Musasi very much. He was never really pushed. He was pushed when he got signed, and then he had a decently boring fight with the Ilir Latifi.
When they would push him, they pushed him to 3 number 1 contender fights, and he lost all of them. And then at the end, he finally went on his 5-fight streak, and he's like, all right, now I'm ready. And they're like, yeah, well, too bad. The top of the division's tied up. Just go on. Get out of here.
They're just, I think that was a contend, like, his leaving or him staying in the UFC, I believe, was contingent on a title shot.
Yes. He was very much like, I've like done. And he was the guy. He had just TKO'd Chris Weidman when he left. So, like, he was clearly the next guy, but they were like, nah, we got to do this whole, like, Bisping and GSP and Robert Whitaker and Yoel situation worked out. And he was like, I'm out of here.
Well, you're not going to win out on that one. Yeah. You're not. And in addition, I'm not going to get too deep into it. We don't have to. It's news in the MMA world, and I would be remiss if we don't at least mention it, just for the global appeal of our sport. One FC. I'll tell you the name of the event. Inside the Matrix. So get your trench coats and your dark glasses ready, because One FC is here to entertain the masses. And so in the third fight down, I'll go in the third fight. Martin Nguyen, their featherweight champion. He's a phenomenal fighter. He hits super hard. He has legitimate one-shot KO power. It's really something to see. When he's on, he's on. And in this particular fight, he took on Ton Lee, if you remember him, UFC vet Ton Lee.
Mm-hmm.
He was on The Ultimate Fighter, I believe. Yeah, either way, and he fought in the UFC. He's been around actually. When he was exposed to audiences in the UFC, he was a pretty young guy. He did not. I don't believe he made it into the organization. If he did, he lost pretty quickly. But yeah, he caught. If you've not watched it, it's a really great watch. He comes back because Martin Nguyen was doing what he does, and he had Ton Lee super hurt. Comes in for the finish, gets caught as he's coming in to catch Ton Lee. It was great. And then, are you familiar with Christian Lee over in ONE FC?
Nope, I've never watched a ONE FC card. I don't know a single person in ONE FC at all.
These cards are really good. The rule set is awesome. Knees on the floor and elbows on the floor. No stomps on the head. You can't have it all. But Christian Lee is really something to watch. He's 22 years old. He has wins over Shinya Aoki to win he defended his featherweight belt, and then he moved up to 55, had an awesome win. And then really the main story, and you will undoubtedly know Angwa Sung, the Burmese Python. They're double champ in ONE FC. They're middleweight, light heavyweight champ. Well, he finally lost. He got choked out in the first round by a man named Reiner, the Dutch Knight, de Ritter. Really quick. I mean, the dude said all week, yeah, I'm going to choke him out. He just said all week in interviews, I'm going to choke this dude out. And then, at 3:26 of round one, he did exactly that.
He did it.
Yeah, it was a really fun. I really wish ONE FC was more available, and I didn't have to accidentally catch it via the ONE FC app. Because weren't they supposed to be on TBS?
TNT was the deal they had set up, and I don't know what the hell ever happened with that.
Well, okay. Those were just a few quick things. And before we get out of here, there were a couple of topics that news that broke right after the fight. Some things were made official. Some things were made official during the fight. Real quick, because I think we'll spend the least amount of time on it. The Ultimate Fighter officially comes back March of 21. It is bantamweights and middleweights. They have not announced the coaches yet. The trailer, as much as we have talked trash about the state of the Ultimate Fighter, especially in probably the last, 4 or 5 seasons, that trailer got me pumped for some Ultimate Fighter. I don't know about you.
What's been gone for a while. It's a typical situation of we were drowned in this thing. Like you recall, we used to have 2 seasons of the Ultimate Fighter a year. We'd have a spring season and a fall season. It's just ridiculous. It was too much. And now that we've had 2-3 years of it gone, however long now, it feels like it's been a couple of years now that we haven't, as in the ESPN era, it hasn't existed. So
no, it has not. And the reason why you can't remember it is that even us, even you and I as hardcore fans, the formula got old.
Yes,
and the talent ultimately, the compelling thing about Ultimate Fighter back in, the first 10 seasons was that they were consolidating all of the best regional talent in the world at this one. Well, the world, mostly US, but ostensibly the world. And they brought them together. But now the UFC is so big that if you're worth discovering, you've been discovered.
And with the Contender Series up and running the way it is, that's something that we're gonna basically get 2 seasons of a year. The skill, the overall skill level of the guys on the Ultimate Fighter generally dropped. But I mean, really the only thing to even speculate about is who the coaches will be, which I have a feeling that I know who these two coaches are going to be, because this is a big deal. It's the first time it's on ESPN, right? People had already known the stale formula of tough. So the big thing is you got to get two big coaches. You got to get two coaches that hate each other, so you can have some nice, contentious fury. And those two coaches are Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. They have to be the coaches of the Ultimate Fighter, because that would be something that would get your casual people to tune in and watch. But if you think back, though, over the years, there's been some crazy people that have done the Ultimate Fighter that you totally would never have expected them to do it, and their seasons were awful. Like Brock Lesnar doing the Ultimate Fighter was a terrible mistake, because it ruined, at the time, the mystique around Brock, and you had to see him just be a normal guy every day.
Yeah, he's just boring.
Just boring. And they even got Connor to go on against a guy he wasn't even going to fight, and a guy he's just friends with now. And it was just like, it's weird. They used to just throw whatever they could, but yeah, I have a feeling that is what they're going to do, because they've already told us that's the fight they want to put together early next year. Both of those guys, massive casual appeal. Or at very least, Jorge has massive casual appeal, and a contentious.
Covington does too. Covington does too. It may not be the people I hang out with, but he does. He has casual appeal.
True. But yeah, that's the only speculation I got on it is, you know, I will watch this season of the Ultimate Fighter, and then we'll take it from there.
I mean, we'll see how the season goes. You know, I pay for my ESPN Plus, and it's only on ESPN Plus. So now it's more original programming, unlike back in the day when Fight Pass first came out and they pitched like, you'll be able, back when they were doing their like, what was it real? It was like world effing domination.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where they were just like, okay, so Ultimate Fighter worked in the US. So now we need one in the US. We need one in China, in Japan, in Brazil, in Australia.
Brazil.
Yeah, yes. Brazil. And it would be all region locked. Yeah. They're like, pay for Fight Pass, because then you can watch all UFC's content, and then they would region lock the Ultimate Fighter. So I'm just excited to get to watch Ultimate Fighter on a service I pay for the first time ever. So
that will be great. I also wonder if they'll tweak the formula any at all. Like they tried the live season, that didn't work out very well, but I definitely think there's some tweaking to be done in the formula. Like in the past bunch of years, they've kind of gotten away from the house stuff. Really, they didn't really focus on the dudes in the house anymore. It was just kind of like, we're just gonna show you their fights. But whatever. I'm interested. Yeah. They got me hooked, so I'll watch it.
Yeah, I predict more. I predict more coaches challenges and the return of alcohol in the house.
Ooh, yeah.
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 It's on ESPN Plus, baby. It's time to come out. Dude.
Let them get loose. Yeah. Let them make their own decisions.
Let those coaches compete over, $10,000 a piece, and what was it, like $1,000 for each of their?
Yeah, I remember on their team.
Dude, you know what's messed up is because the coaches haven't always been like the creme de la creme homie of UFC athlete.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes they've been like just a guy, just a normal dude. Like
the lowest of low seasons, which was Shane Carwin versus Roy Nelson. Yeah,
that's exactly what I was about to say. So two normal, just like UFC roster dudes. If they did a coach's challenge, because I don't remember that season because I didn't watch it. So if they did a coach's challenge, winning $10,000 in a coach's challenge is like a double digits percentage of their normal fight purse.
Yeah.
So like they've got to win this match of badminton.
My kids need to eat.
Yeah, we got to win this game of badminton between me and Roy Nelson. Yeah, so in addition to the Ultimate Fighter coming back, there were two things that I thought were particularly of note. One thing is, and I think this is probably the least interesting and more just kind of like, because it could be anything. Khabib Nurmagomedov is not going to be stripped for yet a while. Dana White said that he does not want to start planning a lightweight division, a future for lightweight without Khabib in it just yet. So it could be two things. It could be one of two things. It could be Khabib is genuinely having second thoughts, or he has spoken to his mother, or whatever. Or it could be the UFC hoping that Khabib is just like every other UFC athlete. And if that's the case, I think the UFC is going to be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, that's what I'm on. I'm on the ladder there. I don't think Khabib fights again in the UFC. I think he was very authentic with everything he said post-fight. And I think this is just Dana being like, hold on, kid, you're a big star, and we could do this one more and get you to this 30-0, and it'd be crazy. And yeah, I don't think Khabib's gonna bite on that. The thing is, it's about the opponent. That's the whole thing. The whole thing in this final push of getting Khabib this one more fight, it's the opponent. Any rematch, not going to work for Khabib. Khabib is not going to accept a rematch against any of these guys he's already beat. It's got to be somebody new. And other than GSP, who's it going to be? You think Khabib's going to be like, oh, Michael Chandler? Yeah, I'll come back for that. No, he's not going to do that at all. I feel like it's literally GSP or bust. There is no other option. And it would have to be at 155 too. And GSP's openly been like, yeah, I'm kind of like super old now, and I don't really want to have to go to 155. So I just don't think it happens. I think in 2 months or so, like I think they're like, okay, we stripped the belt off Khabib, we're moving on.
I think as soon as McGregor raises enough of an issue about it.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, I'll say this. I think McGregor is past trying to pick a fight with Khabib. So, I mean, as of, the past half a year, I mean, he hasn't even spoken about the dude. And if he has, it's been well-wished.
Complimentary. Yeah.
Things of that nature.
Yeah.
So he doesn't.
He's not stupid.
No.
He got smacked. He knows, the odds are against him in a rematch, right? He can go in there, make a bunch of money, and it'd be wild. But like overall, it's probably more detrimental to his brand if he rematched Khabib and got smashed again, rather than just be like, hey, get out of here. Khabib, go away now. And then I can get back on top. He did a thing today. He went on Twitter, started answering questions from people. He was very respectful of Tony, Khabib, all these guys. But in one of those, he was very specific of next year, 2021, that whole year is lightweight. I'm focused on lightweight. I'm going to get my lightweight belt back. And then I'm going to welterweight, and we're moving on to do that. So, yeah. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Lightweight,
we'll see how the lightweight thing goes.
Lightweight is genuinely a possibility. We'll see. You gotta see who the champ is, really. Because if it's Usman, that ain't off topic. Okay, whatever. Yeah. We can talk about him versus Usman when the fight gets signed. But really, we should talk about a fight that just got signed. How's that for a segue? I have not segued the whole episode, and I nail it at the end.
Save best for last.
Yeah, I said best for last. Israel Adesanya, it's official, moving up in weight to fight Jan Blachowicz. for the light heavyweight crown. There was something that I had not thought about when we discussed this fight last, and it was brought up on DC and Helwani, is that this is a bad look for Izzy to go on and on and on about how he needs time to get ready, to move up in weight, to fight John. And as soon as John is gone from light heavyweight, it seems to be as soon as something interested him more than his own division, he's just straight up, no time to adjust, just I'm going to go up and get the belt. I personally don't think it looks bad. I honestly still view it as chasing Jones, but it is the logical. Why would he fight Jones his first time at 205? Why would he do that? I think that this is calculated by him, and I think while some people may try and detract and say he is only moving up now because Jones is gone, I don't see it that way. How do you see it?
I don't love this matchup, but I don't hate it either. I do agree with you that this is from Izzy's angle. It's definitely this is him enticing John to come back to 205. We got this terrible situation where it was just the timing's just bad for this thing. John's like, all right, I've been dominating this division for 10 years. Let's go up and do this heavyweight thing. At the exact same time, he did that a month before Izzy's like, all right, I've wiped out middleweight in 2 title defenses, and now I'm bored, and I want to fight again in 3 months. What do I do next? So just unfortunate timing on that. Whatever. It's a weird situation because, like we talked about last time, your only other option right now at middleweight is with the Whitaker rematch. That does nothing for anyone. Whitaker doesn't care about it. Izzy doesn't care about it. The UFC, whatever. We're just moving on. So I get it. From Izzy's perspective, he likes to fight a lot, stay active. He's ready to go at the beginning of next year. There's no one for him to fight at middleweight. Fine. It's the light heavyweight side of this where it's an issue for me, because this light heavyweight division is being framed like Israel Adesanya and John Jones are fighting for the dominance over this 205 division. And it's neither one of them are champion there. We just established a new champion, and we just opened the field to get all these light heavyweights back in action. And instead, what we're going to do is immediately try to get that belt around Izzy so that John wins the heavyweight belt and then goes, well, I'm going to go back down to 205 and get that belt back from Izzy, and then we get this crazy fight. So that's why I don't like it. In my own personal preference, I would rather see Blachowicz defend the belt against this weekend's winner of Santos and Glover. But I understand none of these people have any type of name value to sell pay-per-views whatsoever. I get it. The UFC would be much rather invested in either a John Jones or an Israel Adesanya in the title fight. But so it's going to happen. There's no denying that the UFC wants Israel to win this fight. 100% they want Israel to win this fight. They want him to double champ, get the 2 belts on him, entice John into this big matchup. So it's whatever. It's cool. The fight will be cool. I do have concerns generally about Israel going up, because remember, there's a 20-pound gap in between middleweight and light heavyweight. He's not a big dude. He's he's a real middleweight. So I don't know. I just don't know how he's gonna look, because this is another situation of it's not like he's like, oh, all right, I'm gonna start lifting weights, and for over the next couple of months, it's he's gonna pull a Max versus Dustin, where he's I'm just not gonna cut weight for this fight. I'm just gonna walk in there. It's yeah, it doesn't work when you move up weight classes and you just I'm just not gonna cut weight. I fully expect Jan Blachowicz to be much bigger than him. People are talking mad stuff, being yeah, Izzy's going to get the light heavyweight belt, and then he's going to go up and fight John at heavyweight. And I'm I don't know. Multiple people have said this. They're yeah, instead of John coming back, Izzy's just going to go on up and fight him at heavyweight. And I'm I don't know what you guys are seeing, but this dude is not that big. He's not that big. He walks around in like the 190s. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's another situation of like these double champs have historically not worked out what do you do with these two weight classes? Like, if Izzy wins both the belts, okay, so no one's going to fight for the middleweight belt in like over the course of a year. Is Izzy expected to really jump back and forth 20 pounds between each? He's not going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. It's like, this isn't a weight class that's just 10 pounds apart where, Amanda Nunes can just like hop back and forth. So it screws up. There's one division, no matter what happens, one division is getting screwed over here, and it's just going to make a mess of things. The double champ era just makes messes of divisions.
It is classic. It's classic UFC. As soon as because both divisions have been a mess.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of long timeline, it's only just recently that both weight classes are starting to just settle into business as usual. Leave it to the UFC to just be like,
yeah, we're not doing this. We hate this.
We hate this.
You tell me middleweight just reestablished itself after the Michael Bisping fiasco? All right, cool. Let's just destroy it again.
Yeah, we're done with that now. Oh, light heavyweight feels like it's about to come alive and be an active division again. Nah.
Let's try to get John Jones to fight there again.
Yeah. We need Jones back down. We need Jones. We got Charlie Day next to the newsroom wall. So we need
Pepe Silva.
Yeah, we gotta get John out of here. Get Jan in there. Get Adesanya in there. Then John can come back down. The whole thing's a mess. Well, UFC's going to UFC, and they have not been blatantly. Well, I mean, they're like estimated value billions with a B business, so they're always blatantly chasing money. But it seems as of late, they were not as blatantly chasing money, and things had been more sport-based matchmaking as of late. I mean, listen, man, when you got a card. Well, also, it's because the UFC's hand is forced. Because these fight nights, I mean, I'm not going to. I mean, we got Thiago Santos, Glover Teixeira on Saturday. I'm excited for that fight. There are some good fights littered throughout the rest of the fight night, but nothing that I'm particularly pressed to break down here. I don't know if you feel the same way. I mean, we can go ahead and go into the card if you want, or we can just.
It's the way things are now with the way they have to kind of do things around Rona. On Saturday night, they announced the main event of next Saturday. Like it happens in like 13 days, and they announced the main event. So like, we're getting these announcements on like no notice at all. It's RDA versus Islam Makhachev in the main event. That card didn't have a main event, and we got it on 13 days notice. So it's like, this is just how they have to do these things. It's just like,
it's not even on Google yet.
No, they're just like, all right, throw it together, whatever.
Wait, so they just threw one in between?
Yes, there is a
55 is on the 21st.
Yeah, so the 21st is 255. This weekend, the 7th is Santos and Glover, and then the 14th is RDA and Islam Makhachev. And I don't even know if there's anyone else even on that card. Who else is even on that card? Like they're having to put these things together and be like, you guys got to fight in 13 days. Like, oh, okay. So that's like, how are we really supposed to get prepared for these things? And then fight week, people are popping for COVID like nonstop. So like, it's what.
Dude, the UFC's operating like a 4th of July fireworks tent.
They're shooting from the hip. They're just like,
Monday. Yeah, you drive home from work the night before. When you leave the next morning, there's 3 of them just littering the road. It's yeah, okay. Well, I mean, just honorable mentions for the card, and I'll just say them, and then we can get out of here because I think we've gone a little bit longer than normal. We have Thiago Santos, Glover Teixeira, of course. I love that fight. I think it's going to be a banger. Both dudes are down to they are down to throw down. So I'm very excited to watch that. Andrei Arlovsky, the timeless man, he comes back and he takes on Tanner Boser. As Andrei Arlovsky, it could be super fun or it could be super not fun. Ian Heinisch is on the card against Brendan Allen. Claudia Gadelha is on the card against Yan Zhaonan. I think that's a woman from China, 12-1. I recognize the name. I don't know how to say it, and she's fun to watch.
She just beat Angela Hill.
Yes, she's good. We have Trevin Giles on the card. I like him taking on Bevan Lewis. Both dudes that I like quite a bit. Darren Elkins, the Damage, taking on a fighter who is 13-1. Max Griffin's on the card, and that's it as far as people I know the name of.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fine. Cool card.
Yeah, it will be a fun. Hopefully, it'll be a fun card. That main event really ties it all together. Main card starts at 10 p.m. A 10 p.m. fight night, which means we ain't getting out of there till about 1.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hope Thiago Santos can stuff a double leg. Because if not, Glover Teixeira is going to be hanging out in that guard for a while.
Yeah.
Or actually, you know what? I take that back. Glover, if he gets a takedown, Glover Teixeira more than likely is going to catch an arm triangle. That's just what he does.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, that is this week's episode of Sparring Partners. And once again, for the first time, presented by FilmFightFreaks.com. We didn't get to it, but the Contender Series is not on Tuesday this week. It's on Wednesday. And your boy, Coby McKinley, wrote a preview of it. So it's down in the description. If you want to check it out, please do. In the meantime, if you like the episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below if you made it this far into the episode, the very end. And also keep an eye out for our clips, the little blue icon ones. Those are generously cut up by our main man, Brad. And another week down. And feeling... I gotta hydrate, man. I gotta hydrate some more.
Yeah, gotta keep the water flowing.
All right, dude. Well, that's the episode. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.